I woke up with a start. It was about 5:30 in the morning, something like that. And when I say I woke up with a start, when I say start, there was just a very loud bang. I thought there was a noise outside. I sat bolt upright in bed, and all the strength drained out of me, and I collapsed back down onto the pillow again. I didn't feel well. I was obviously had been asleep, was starting to come round. I assumed the bang was the clot in my brain. I don't know. But I started to feel unwell, like I'm going to be sick, a bit nauseous. So, simple thing, get out of bed, walk to the bathroom. I got out of bed and just couldn't stand up. I just fell straight on the floor in a heap up against the radiator. This woke my wife up. Are you okay, Andy? Yeah, I'm fine. And I was struggling to stand up. I couldn't stand up. I was aware that the world was spinning around me, very disorientating. So I think this is what the hell's going on? Got some kind of food poisoning or something here. And I was scrabbling and trying to stand. And I couldn't stand up, but I'm feeling sick. I need to get to the bathroom. So where we were living at the time, the bathroom was literally just across the hallway. But I found I could crawl, kind of. So I'm crawling on my hands and knees, but everything is moving around, and I've got what I later nicknamed the force. But this force, this feeling pulling me to the left. So as I'm crawling on my hands and knees, I'm going to the left the whole time. So I have to keep bringing myself back round to the right. And I've kind of got it worked out. I have to aim about 45 degrees to the right in order to move in a straight line. But that 45 degrees would wane and come over. So with a few little crawls, I've started going in that direction. I'm now starting to move in that direction. So I've got to move back again. To cut a long story short, I eventually, on my hands and knees, banging into furniture, banging into door frames, banging into doorways, I eventually make it to the bathroom, where I prop myself up on the toilet bowl and I'm retching over the toilet bowl, trying to retch over the toilet bowl. By this time, my wife has said, I'm calling, do you want me to call 999, 111 as it is in the States, emergency services in the UK? I said, yeah, please, yeah, something's not right. So she calls 999. And I'm kneeling over the toilet bowl, retching, which is the last memory I have of my father. When I was aged 16, he was 54. I'm now 55. My last memory of my father, having a heart attack as it turned out, is kneeling on the floor with his head in the toilet bowl. And that's how I saw my father die, until I left to run over the road to use the phone from our neighbours, because we didn't have a phone, to phone for an ambulance. So I'm there feeling awful with my head over the toilet bowl, thinking, going to go like my father. So I don't know how long it lasted, because it all gets a bit hazy, but I then needed to empty my bowels. So I've now got to try and get onto the toilet. So I'm literally hauling myself up between the radiator, the shelf, the toilet bowl, and the side of the sink to try and pull myself up. Everything's moving around like this. I've not really got any power or strength, but I'm trying like hell, because I realise I'm going to have an accident, which is slightly embarrassing and humiliating, if I don't manage to reverse myself and sit on the toilet bowl. Anyway, eventually I get onto to sit on the toilet bowl, and I'm wedged in. I've got my elbow here against the wall and an elbow here against the sink, so I'm kind of wedged in because I'm all over the place. And I start going to the toilet. The doorbell rings. My wife goes, "It's a first responder." "Don't come in," I say. So we have this conversation between myself and the first responder and my wife, who are both outside in the corridor. And I don't remember anything about that conversation, but my wife tells me the first responder said to her, "Sounds like he's got labyrinthitis, which is an infection of the inner ear, causes imbalance and nausea." So he disappears. I'm still sitting on the toilet. Then the paramedics arrive, the ambulance arrives. "Don't come in, I'm still going to the, don't come in, stay out there." So again, another conversation between myself and the paramedics. Eventually I finish what I'm doing, manage to clean myself up somehow, and I just collapse. The effort, the whole thing's been too much. I collapse. I'm now lying on the floor of the bathroom in my underpants, and the paramedics come in. And they do an EEG. They check out my heart, because I say, "I think I'm having a heart attack." I've got the memory of my father in my mind, and although I've got no pains up my arm, I've got no pains in my chest, I've just got nausea, extreme vertigo. The world is spinning around you. Dizziness is when you're moving around, the world isn't. Vertigo is when the world is moving around you, but you don't feel like you're moving. And that's very much what it was. Everything was spinning wildly around me. It's like being on some kind of bizarre merry-go-round that's going at warp factor 1. But I can think okay, I can talk okay, but I just assume it's a heart attack because this is what happened to my dad. So the paramedics give me an EEG. "Don't worry, Mr. Dobie, you checked out, your heart's fine. We think you've got labyrinthitis." If only I could say it. Labyrinthitis. So they gave me an anti-nausea shot. Disappeared. I crawl back to bed, managed to get into bed. My wife sits me up in bed, room still going around. And the paramedics, by now it's about 7 o'clock in the morning, paramedics had said, "If he's no better in a couple of hours, give your doctor a ring and get another anti-nausea shot." So I sit up in bed, and it gets around to about 9 o'clock. Shops start to open. My wife phones the doctor's surgery. They write a prescription for some painkillers and some anti-nausea meds. My wife goes and picks a prescription up, checks a prescription at the pharmacy, comes back. I start taking the meds. And luckily my GP at the time was excellent, and he said, "Look, if he's no better by lunchtime, I'll do a house visit." So I got around to about 1 o'clock, and Jonathan, our GP, turns up. Says, "Okay, can you puff out your cheeks?" "Yeah, that's good. Touch the end of your nose with your right hand." "Okay, yep, brilliant. Try it with your left hand." "Okay." Literally, that happened. I kid you not. I nearly punched myself in the face. I just had no control over my left hand at all. So I said, "Try again." I said, "Okay, this, what the hell is going on?" So he then did a check on my eyes. My eyes were a bit funny. I had no idea that my eyes were a bit funny. So he said, "I think you've had a stroke. I'm going to phone for an ambulance." And what's a stroke? I didn't ask that question, but in my head I'm thinking, what's a stroke? A stroke, something to do with, it's like a mild heart attack or something, is it? I had no idea what a stroke is. So half an hour later, paramedics arrive, and they put me in a wheelchair. It's chucking down with rain, that I do remember. Chucking down with rain. We've got a gravel driveway, so they couldn't wheel me, so they have to carry me out the house in a wheelchair, carry me up the driveway in a wheelchair, stick me in the back of the ambulance. All I could think of was saying to my wife, "Did you lock up?" To which my wife, who's an angel and fantastic, said, "I'll leave a note for the burglars saying, take what you want." Yeah. How she managed to keep a sense of humour in that situation, I don't really know. So I'm in the back of the ambulance. It's about 20 minutes or so to the John Radcliffe Hospital in Oxford. And I'm on a wheelchair still. I'm wheeled out of the back of the ambulance into A&E. Now, after that point, I remember getting to A&E, and I remember a lady doctor welcoming me, if that's the right word, into A&E, checking me in, going through symptoms, that kind of thing. And I don't really remember that much after that, I've now learned, for about 5 days. So I've got 5 days of missing time, which I'll talk about in a minute, because in and of itself it's quite interesting. I've got no memory of it, but I was talking, I was communicating, I was talking to my wife, I was talking to my 2 sons, I was talking to my stepdaughter, I was talking... Not really got any memory. I say not really, I haven't got any memory of it at all. Chatting away to doctors and consultants, life and soul of the party, no memory whatsoever. My next real memory is of being aware that I'm in a hospital ward. There's kind of curtains around me, and I've been in hospitals enough to know, yep, I know what this is. And there was a fight going on. And from what I could work out, one of the patients, that I couldn't see because I've got these curtains around me, one of the patients was upset about something. It was something to do with his TV, and he'd been moved from another ward, and he'd got 20 quid credit on his TV, and he wanted that transferred to the new ward that he's in, the same ward as me now. And he was getting really upset about it, and security had to be called, and there was a bit of a scuffle, and words were exchanged and shouting was going on. I'm on that line there thinking, I want peace and quiet. Please, just shut up. I need peace and quiet. And then I was aware that there was a guy sitting to my right with a clipboard. And I guess the curtains must have been opened. I don't know. But there's a guy sitting to my right with a clipboard. And he's watching the nurses, and he's writing stuff down on his clipboard and asking questions to the nurses and all the rest of it. Got a suit on, he's got a briefcase, don't really know. So I don't quite know what he was doing there. And then there was some kind of, I could hear music in the background. There was some kind of gig going on, kind of celebration. There were kids running around, and I could hear speeches over like a PA. I'd like to thank right honourable gentlemen for some kind of, maybe there's a new wing of the hospital being opened or something like that. And why have they got kids here running around when people are trying to recover? Why have they got a band playing? I don't want to listen to, I love music. What the hell do I want to listen to a bloody band for? So that was all a bit disturbing and upsetting. And then, just between us, there's some kind of politician, MP, something like that, talking to some guy, don't know who he was, but I got the feeling he was kind of like a spy, like a spook. And the politician was asking him about this operation. And the other guy, the spook, wasn't letting on what was going on at all. It was all very kind of hush-hush, very sort of muted tones of conversation and low voices, and all a bit kind of, you had to guess what was going on between the conversation. It was sort of more what wasn't said than was said. But that was all a bit weird. What the hell are they doing here in a hospital? Now, I didn't know it at the time, but I subsequently found out none of that I've just said, the fight, the scuffle, the gig, the politicians, the spook guy, ladies and gentlemen, the guy giving the speech, the kids running around, none of that happened. Yeah, that was all auditory and visual hallucinations. Didn't happen, none of it. Now it's as real to me now telling you about it as any memory that I've got, quite frankly, and in some ways more real. But none of it actually happened. And I only know this because somehow I was sending my wife text messages, and she's reading these text messages going, well, that's good that he can send me a text message. That's encouraging. He's worked out how to turn his phone on, he can press buttons, blah, 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 blah. He knows what he's doing. On the other hand, the content of the text messages was slightly disturbing. So one of them said, can't tell you what's going on here. Walls have ears, but there's been a fight and there's other stuff going on, but don't tell anyone, just between us. So there's my poor wife sitting at home getting these text messages thinking, great, he can send a text message. Oh my God, what the hell does this mean? He's losing the plot. Either that or he's in some kind of lunatic asylum, or what the hell's going on? So she would come to the hospital the next day and say, who's this guy that was watching with the clipboard? And it's like, hey, what are you talking about? You couldn't have been on nights. No, I've been on all night. And Mrs. Dobie, nothing. No, he nothing. Your husband was fine. There was nobody here. What about? Okay. So, okay. Well, it's just I've got this really weird text message, and I would then tell my wife, oh, well, there was a couple of people over there and it sounded like some MP and politician, and he was talking to some kind of spy, I think, and, hey, can't really tell you too much more. And she'd go back to the nurses and like, no, never happened. He also said there was a fight. No. He also said there was a gig, there was a band playing. No. Lots of kids running around. No. Some kind of presentation going on. There was a speech, isn't. Nope, nothing. This was a bit hard for me to accept when it was like, there, don't worry, it didn't happen. And if it wasn't for the fact that I had other hallucinations that I worked out were hallucinations, made it much easier for me to accept. If I hadn't had that, I would be saying, no, you don't know what's happened. No, let me tell you. So what I do remember is then seeing in front of me a glorious pool of molten lava with bubbles. You've probably seen lava on the TV where the bubbles come up and it's all a bit slow because it's all sort of sticky and squidgy and bubbles come up. So imagine a giant screensaver across your whole field of vision, which is just all kinds of beautiful oranges, reds, yellows, golds, with bubbles coming up. Beautiful, very rare. This is lovely. This is calming. This is great. I like this. And then out of one of the bubbles, there's a little black dot in the middle. Ooh, what's that? And then the black dot gets a bit bigger. It gets a bit bigger. And then you realise it's the cornea of an eye. And the eye appears. And then another black dot alongside it. And that eye gets bigger. And the eyes get bigger. And all of a sudden, a face starts emerging. It's a dog. It's a beautiful, cute little dog. It's gorgeous little eyes. And then the ears appear. Oh, this is nice. And then he kind of just disappears off into the ether. And then another bubble appears with a black dot in it. And it's another eye. And then alongside it, another black dot. And that's another eye. And it's a different dog this time. Oh, equally gorgeous, equally cute. And this dog just kind of just appears and merges, gorgeous, and then just disappears again. Oh, oranges and golds and yellows and reds. Oh, it's glorious. And then another black dot in another bubble. And alongside it, another black dot. And oh, it's going to be another dog again. And then the two little dogs. And then this monster, this snake, emerges out of the lava like this with these two glowing eyes. Oh my God! I open my eye and I'm in the hospital ward. Oh my God. Okay, so, there's a nurse over there, there's a guy over there in a bed, another guy over there, a guy next to me, the window over here. God, I feel tired. Oh my God. My eyes closed. back to the screensaver, the lava. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, a little black dot. Oh my God, what's it going to be? Oh, it's another dog. Oh God. Another black dot. Another monster leaps out. Oh my God. Open your eyes. Keep your eyes open. Keep your eyes, whatever you do, keep your eyes open. Don't know. I know you're tired. Don't know. Keep your eyes open. So this went on for a wee bit. And obviously I realised that the hospital ward was real. And the lava and the dogs and the monster, what have you, were some kind of hallucination. And I fought to keep my eyes open because I didn't want to go back to the hallucination. And if I hadn't had that experience, then hearing about all these other things not being real would have been much harder to swallow. But because I'd had this experience with the lava and the dogs and the monster and all the rest of it, I could accept that the other stuff wasn't real, even though it seemed ridiculously real and still does. But it was all, I guess, part of the fact I had a stroke, part of the fact that I also just had 6 hours of major brain surgery, which we'll come on to in a minute, because things didn't go too well and it looked like I was going to not make it at one stage. I guess because of that and because of the meds, I've subsequently learned that if you had an operation, particularly if you've had brain surgery, some of the meds they give you can, hey man, either that or they were giving me LSD. You choose. But if that hadn't have happened, I'd have struggled, quite frankly, believing that what I thought had happened with all these incidents, actually none of them were real. They were all made up. Well, I say made up. They were hallucinations. I didn't obviously make them up deliberately. I'm assuming that in the context of leaving ICU, going into the neurosurgery ward, that's where I was. I didn't know it at the time, but I wasn't in the stroke ward. I was in the neurosurgery ward. I'm assuming that my drug-induced sleepiness, I was still hearing stuff and I was hearing noises, which my brain was going, oh, that's some kids running around. Ah, that other noise, that's a fight you can hear. Ah, those people whispering, that they're actually nurses or doctors talking about me and they're whispering whatever. No, that's a politician and a spy having a private conversation. Some people talking a bit more loudly over here, maybe. Yeah, that was the PA, that was So I'm assuming in my brain fuddled state that I'm hearing stuff and my brain is putting 2 and 2 together and making 340 or something. I don't know. Weird experience though. Very weird.